Tonight we're going to decide if French cleats are a passing trend or if they're actually here to stay. So I did some research on French cleats, and from what I can tell, they've actually been around for quite a while. No one has definitively claimed to know the true origin, but there are a lot of theories. One of those theories is that the word Frenched actually means to cut up into strips, like French fries. My favorite theory though is that they were created by French shipbuilders back in the 1800s. After they had finished the structure of the ship and all the walls, they would use French cleats along the interior below deck to be able to secure things to the walls. That would make things pretty stable for a rocking ship. I was curious about French cleats because I love the simplicity of the design. I also love the versatility in that I can move things around on it. So I decided to give it a try on the wall above my workbench. Some of my initial concerns about French cleats were knocking things off the wall because they're just set on top of the cleat. Also getting my tools covered in dust because they're out exposed. And number 3 was having things sticking out over the top of my workbench, which could potentially block my work area. So at the end of this video, I'm going to give you my full assessment of whether I think French cleats are worth it and whether they're here to stay. I started with a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood and ripped it down into 5-inch wide strips. I've seen some complex formulas for determining the exact center of the board and setting your table saw to that width, but I think those are all overkill. Cut a few small pieces of your 5-inch wide strips and set your table saw blade to 45 degrees. Then measure where the center of the board is and try to cut your 45 exactly where that mark is. Now turn your boards back to back and make sure they are the exact same height. If not, adjust your fence, cut another short piece until you get it dialed in. Now in order to prevent issues with dust buildup on the top of your cleats, you should cut off just the tip here. I cut off about 1/8 of an inch. That also gives it a consistent width so that every piece is the same because you have some variation when you're cutting a 45 on a table saw. This tip also doesn't add much strength to the cleat anyway. For the installation of these cleats, I found the location of each stud and then pre-drilled countersunk holes into each rail at the same location. Also, I added a side rail to give me an easy way to align the pieces and because I think it frames the whole thing in better. Other than that, these really serve no purpose. Line up your first rail and make sure to use a few spacers to install every rail after that. This makes it much easier than measuring and trying to install it to a mark every time. And make sure to save your spacers. I used some sturdy lagged screws to install these that can handle up to 542 pounds in shear. Don't try to use drywall screws for mounting these as they can't take much shear or the downward weight. Another thing to remember if you're doing a series of rails close together is to make sure you have enough room to remove a cleat without it hitting the rail above it. Once you have all your rails installed, you can now start making tool holders. Now the biggest criticism of the French cleat system is that if you bump your tool holder, everything's going to fall off. This can definitely be a problem, but there is a very simple solution. Use a locking mechanism. I've seen a lot of designs for locking mechanisms on the French cleats, but I think the two simplest are the pin lock and the key lock. The pin lock is literally just a loose dowel pin that you drill a hole for and slide underneath the cleat. This locks the tool holder in place and can easily be removed if you want to reposition your tool holder. The key lock uses a block of wood to slide between your holder cleat and the next wall rail to prevent the tool holder from lifting up off the cleat. Some people even add a bevel along the back to make sure it stays there, but I don't think that's really necessary. Not all tool holders need a lock though. Some of them are small enough or heavy enough that they really don't need it. French cleats can also hold a surprising amount of weight. If you want to hang an entire tool cabinet, the benefit of using a long cleat is that you can distribute the weight of that cabinet to all of the fasteners in that cleat that attach it to the wall instead of just the two that are directly behind your cabinet. And sometimes those don't line up exactly where you want the cabinet to be. Once I had the rails up, I made all kinds of tool holders, and I'll probably make even more to store various tools and other stuff. I am planning on making another video about just the tool holders to show those in more detail. Now for the assessment. I've been using this French cleat wall here for a few months now, and I can easily say I love it. I think French cleats are here to stay, mainly because they're a great design. They're simple, they're versatile, there's a ton of potential applications. I do find that I end up moving my tools around a lot more than I thought I would. I'm one that's always changing things or moving things depending on what I need closer to me and what project I'm working on at the time. I am a little concerned about dust on the larger tools like the hand planes, but for those, my plan is to eventually build a tool cabinet that I can close the doors on. The nice thing about the French cleats is that I can still use the French cleats to hang the cabinet on. It's strong enough to hold that as well. I'm also probably going to buy new tools in the future or new equipment that I want to hang on the wall, and so I can build new stuff, I can reorganize things, I can build new tool holders. It makes it so flexible to fit exactly what my needs are. I also found that the area above the workbench is not as blocked as I thought it would be. It's pretty close to the wall, and it's not like I'm putting things within 3 inches of the wall anyway. It actually gives me more space on the workbench because there's a lot of things that I had previously on the workbench that I can now put up on these shelves. This is way better than a pegboard. I used that in my last shop, and this is night and day difference. Pegboards always made me angry because there was always something falling off or getting bumped or not hanging right. This is awesome. It's so fun to use, and it's fun to make little tool holders for it. It's definitely worth a try in your shop as a simple way to organize tools or equipment or supplies or whatever else you have. I would highly recommend this system to anyone. Now, if you agree or disagree with my assessment, give me some good reasons in the comments below, and let me know what ideas you have for what would work better. I'm always open to new ideas and new ways to organize my shop to make it more efficient. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see the video of my tool holders and how I build those. Now, go build something, and we'll see you next time.